Actually, so we haven't really done much on standard essential patents yet. So, and actually, I guess by yet, I mean not, because it's the last class. So that's not much. Could maybe our MPEG guy can cover just very briefly, what is a standards essential patent, and sort of what is a patent pool, and how do they play into each other?
Okay, well, I'll just give you an example, and that will tell the whole story. The MPEG-2 is the audiovisual compression standard for DVDs and other types of media. And it's a standard that's used worldwide. It's probably one of the most ubiquitous standards that's been used, at least in recent history. And MPEG-2, or MPEG-LA, our company, gathered the interested parties at the time. This was sort of mid to late 90s. And looked at the standard, got all the companies together who had patents in that standard, and they pooled those. Including Columbia. Columbia is the only university that, and well, Phillips is certainly, and formed a very large patent pool, over 800 patents. In its heyday, over 1,600 licensees worldwide. It's probably, I'm sure it's public that that the revenues were, over $1.5 billion a year for several years, and it was a good pool from a licensing perspective, but it was based on, as Brian was talking about, based on a known royalty, and it was fair and reasonable, and had achieved all of the goals of freeing the market, so you avoided all of these sort of standards wars and things like that.
But fundamentally what that means is that for a product to declare itself to be, to have the MPEG-2 compliant, to work in DVD players, it would need to then take a license. It would need to both conform to the actual technical standard, and also then by conforming to the standard, the pool allows a company to take a license to all of the patents that are necessary for the standard at once. You can imagine the nightmare scenario that if you didn't have the standard there, where in order to make a DVD player, you'd have to go license 800 individual patents.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, again, as I mentioned before, identifying choke points in the marketplace, that could have been a choke point. I mean, look, you're all too young to remember the Betamax versus VHS war, but that's something that you would avoid. And more recently, there was, I guess, HD DVD, or it was HD DVD versus Blu-ray. I guess that sort of, yeah. And so you have these things that come up, and a patent pool is intended, really, a standards-based patent pool is intended to avoid all of that and free the market up for adoption. Yeah.